All right, guys. You don't see him. That's half of him. That's Youngblood. That's Bloomberg and oil, and he gave me a great idea to talk about oil. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. It's been going up, and there's a lot of stuff it's affecting. If you are not familiar or aware, well, that sucks for you, and you're probably missing out on a lot of economic knowledge that could help you and take you far in life and in trading. This guy knows it. Oh, why don't you? Look at cute girls know oil. Okay, yeah, bye. So that was my boy, Youngblood. That's what I call him. I met him in Arizona. He actually visited me from LA when he was 17. Great kid, love you, bro. But what I want to talk about was actually that oil thing, because he brought it up and he was asking me, you know, he's pretty familiar with the markets. I'd say he's kind of at some of your guys' level, knows some stuff, doesn't know some stuff. And that was kind of the big issue, because when he started talking to me about oil, I just started going hype about it. He's, you know, been my friend for years. He's seen me talk about it. But now the question is, should you invest in oil right now? And I think a lot of people need to see what's going on in the market, because one, it's going to have a big effect. You know, the fact of the matter, oil at one point was, a barrel of oil was cheaper than a bucket of chicken from KFC in 2016, and now it's back at these very high levels. And it's kind of crazy, because when an asset, you know, an asset or a commodity, you know, the number one used thing in the world, and is traded so much, when you have that changed price, you know, it changes the value of other things. So it has a lot of implications on just base valuation, inflation, stuff like that. Now, you guys are like, okay, well, that's gonna have a big effect. How do you measure that? You know, that is my, you know, longer term thing I'm looking with oil and having to have that effect. But the thing right here, right now with oil is now its effect on companies. So when I'm explaining that, or, you know, it's not me explaining it, just go look at the chart for oil. When you see that oil, what it's done in the price movements, you have to understand how companies use it. So a big thing you can see right now is the airline companies. They've been down, they've been getting hammered simply because oil. You know, there's some people who've brought up other things, you know, there's like Air France and other issues that they're having internally and like switching up stuff. But for the most part, the biggest issue right now for a lot of these companies, especially one that uses a commodity like oil so much, it's a part of, you know, their costs, is that when that goes up, they hedged. You know, so when oil was at a certain price, you know, they agreed to buy it at other prices. Now you would think, okay, well, yeah, then they bought it in 2016, 17. But the thing is, when certain things roll over, or expectations, and then the price they pay for those hedges, things start to get out of whack. But then now, even if they have 3-4 year contracts on jet fuel from 2016, that means 2019, 2020, 2025, you know, the future growth of what people are expecting now with new, you know, there's a lot of guidance on oil. People are saying oil is back. You know, there's issues in the Permian Basin, you know, United States oil and their drilling, but a lot of places in the US besides there are booming. Everything's back up. And, you know, the other issue people were saying, and it's kind of crazy to see it's not happening, because when oil did drop to 20 or 40, you saw so many companies get wiped out. I don't know if you guys go look at some of the oil companies in 2016, great opportunities. Those were, you know, there was very clever entrepreneurs who took advantage of that. I knew some people who were going and finding broken down, or, you know, closing down oil fields, and they would buy their heavy equipment, you know, $500,000 drills for like 20 grand, and then they would resell them, and now oil's back up. So a lot of companies took a loss. I'm trying to think of one of the big ones that went bankrupt. Well, I know Chesapeake's a good example. And, you know, looking at kind of what's happened, people really were not expecting oil to do this, or they were expecting it to take a longer amount of time to get back up here. So it's crazy how that has shifted, and we see where oil's at now. But these companies essentially now are going to start spending a lot more money. You know, stuff like Costco, you know, they use gas and fuel. Think about electricity, energy costs, and there's a lot. So I guess I'm even giving you guys the preface telling you that, hey, I'm explaining the effect of oil and what it is, and now the question is now a good time? You're gonna hate me when I say this, but I don't know. And what I mean by that, and I think this will give you your answer, is by talking about the good and the bad of everything right now. What is expected, what can, what's a rare, expectation and whatnot. But actually, wait, I forgot to finish that point with the oil companies and what the issue is with oil going up. But people were pretty much saying after those closures, when oil shot from 26 bucks, it went back to 40, but the minute it started breaking higher and higher prices, people started turning on drills again, and they started drilling more and more and more, flooded supply, then it would bring it down. So to see that we're at this price, it's showing solid signs, which may want to say, yeah, invest in oil. The thing that's making me hesitant is that the market we're in now, to see these types of moves in oil, it is signifying something, or it's just really, it's a different time. We haven't seen it. After oil made that 50% decline from 14, there was another point in time, I believe it was like around the Iran oil contra, or the Iran, oil issue, and what happened, excuse me, but they, oil dropped like 50%, but then it stayed in a $10, $20 range for about 15 years, no exaggeration. Go look that up. And it's crazy to think how oil is, it made such large moves and drops. So the one thing I'm scared of is volatility. Oil right now, even though the expectations, people are forecasting $100 oil. So there's high demand, there's OPEC stuff that, they're cutting back. I have heard some stuff of them adding, but OPEC's doing pretty good. That's been helping it. There's been good relations. People are negotiating and actually not letting Iran oil get in, which takes off supply from the market, drives up price. But these are all positive things. So these are reasons why I want to buy oil. Why I wouldn't want to buy oil? It's at a high price now, relatively. On a 5-10 year basis, you're buying at a higher than average price. Now on a 10-20 year, not the case, but it's a high price, and the same volatility, same risks still exist, which is why I'm scared of it. But now just seeing, and this is what made me want to make this video and tell you guys all this stuff, because people don't really understand when oil makes this move, your #1 traded commodity, which is used by everybody, globalization, trade, the value of the dollar, what this all brings and culminates into is that something's really happening or moving. Now, putting a timing on it, I don't know, but oil really, your chance was at 60, is 80, 80-ish. Is it now a good time? And right now there's a lot of demand. I think oil broke out yesterday. It had a technical breakout. So I think, again, I don't know. I'm sorry if that isn't helpful for you guys, but I think it's a question of answering your risk portfolio, or answering your risk and strategizing your portfolio. I think it could be something good to flip. I think even with some options, you do got to be careful if there will be volatility, but it's easy for oil to not do stuff and then out of nowhere go up. So that will kill your options if it doesn't do anything. As far as holding it long term, I would say now might be a good time to scale in, honestly, and that's the best thing. If you've been looking, for me, I was gonna buy oil at 60 in 2015 after the first drop. I was like, dude, 60 oil, that's crazy. And then it dropped to 40, and I was like, okay, well, shit. I reconsidered. Then it dropped down to 20, but now it's back up. 60 probably would have been that sweet spot for me. And maybe that's what I say. If you want to invest in oil, aim for kind of a lower range and see, and give it some time. But you could always start scaling in, and that's the best thing I could say if it is something to invest in it. But realistically, there is slightly more good things going for oil, everything politically, supply and all that, but then there's also those same political risks and market risks where oil could be damaging, and that's, I'll leave it on this point, relating it to the overall market, is the effect it has on emerging markets. And go check out the emerging markets right now. You go look up EEM on, the ticker, emerging market ETF, and or even IWM, go look at the, excuse me, I'm talking small caps. I didn't mean to say emerging markets. Go to IWM, go check out the Russell, and you'll see that these small caps, emerging markets, they're diverging from the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones just hit a record high, but these guys are hitting lows, or they're aiming towards lows. But it's interesting to see that, and I think that tells us, because again, emerging markets, smaller cap companies, everyone benefits off of the cheap oil costs. So now and I think it's funny now because with higher costs, we're gonna start seeing those debates now where I remember companies used to not bring it up, or back then they would. You're gonna start people saying, hey, oil costs, energy costs went up, this is why we did bad, this is why we did good. People are gonna start, even the Fed is gonna start talking about it. Americans saving money, how this is affecting Americans' purchasing power when oil goes to this price and gas prices. So, and that's one thing I'd say is pretty interesting. I won't even go on that. Don't get me on that rant with oil, price of oil per barrel and the price of gas you see quoted at a gas station. But I think that's pretty much it. I'll leave it there. Again, I'm sorry if this didn't give you buy, but we did go over some of those. I hope this gives you stuff to go look into and understand. It's going to be a good opportunity. My thing, I guess, and maybe this will give you something concrete that I don't like about oil, which is why I'm kind of hesitant towards it. It's not really there. The options, the movement, the volatility, all that stuff, it's not really too profitable. I guess I'm a degenerate and I want bigger, more gains, but it's a slow mover. I think long-term portfolio, and then two, there's nothing right now in the energy market, and this is like, at 40 bucks, 20 bucks, yeah, maybe buy oil, but my concern then was that 15, 20 year stall. But if you could get it low enough or get it at one of these, crazy prices, and you're just buying it, holding it long term, or we're suspecting something crazy to happen in the energy market, look at oil, look at wars all the way down to, who knows, then that would be kind of more my inclination, buy. But at this point, I'm still in the middle, but it is something interesting to watch, and you should be asking yourself this question: should you invest in it? Go look at some options, see what there is. But I've looked at a couple, but I'd love to look at any if you guys have them. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm ranting at this point. Love y'all. Stay in school. Peace.